Forgotten Village, a haunting tale of Eldermoor. What if I told you there's a place no map will show, a place erased from memory yet hauntingly familiar? Tonight, we uncover the chilling story of the Forgotten Village, where time stands still and visitors never leave. It started with an old, crumpled letter mailed to our protagonist, Jake. He didn't know the sender, but the address was clear. Return to Eldermoor before it's too late. Jake laughed. Eldermoor? He'd never heard of it. It wasn't on any map, and a quick internet search turned up nothing but ghost stories. Still, the letter felt personal. Something about the handwriting stirred a vague, unsettling memory. That night, as Jake slept, he dreamed of a village surrounded by fog, its cobblestone streets empty but echoing with whispers. When he woke up, the letter was gone. Jake couldn't shake the dream. He asked around, but no one had heard of Eldermoor. Then one day he found an old road sign while driving through the countryside. Eldermoor, 3 miles. The road was narrow, overgrown, and eerily quiet. His phone lost signal, and the car's clock began flickering. The deeper he drove, the thicker the fog became. Finally, he arrived. Eldermoor wasn't much, a cluster of weathered houses, an old church, and a fountain in the square. But something was wrong. There were no people, no animals, just a suffocating silence that made the hair on his neck stand up. Jake wandered the empty streets, calling out, but no one answered. He entered one of the houses, finding dusty furniture and rotting food on the table, as if the occupants had left in a hurry. In another house, he found a diary. The last entry read, "They come at dusk, hide before the bells toll." As he read, the church bell rang, echoing through the fog. It wasn't dusk yet. The air grew colder, and shadows began to stretch unnaturally. Jake ran outside, but the village had changed. The streets twisted into impossible paths, leading him in circles. Jake turned a corner and saw them, figures emerging from the fog. Their movements were jerky, their faces hidden under hooded cloaks. They whispered in unison, their words unintelligible but filled with malice. Panicking, Jake ducked into the church, slamming the door behind him. The bell was still ringing, louder and more erratic. Inside, the church was dark, lit only by the faint glow of stained glass windows. He found a journal on the altar written by the village priest. "We tried to appease them, but the fog brings no mercy. Eldermoor is cursed, and so are we. If you are reading this, it's already too late." A cold breath grazed Jake's neck. He spun around, but no one was there. Hiding in the church, Jake pieced together the village's dark history from old documents. Eldermoor had been erased from records after a mysterious plague wiped out its population in the 1800s. Survivors claimed the fog wasn't natural. It was alive, a gateway to something beyond this world. The villagers had made a deal with the fog's creatures for salvation, but the price was steep. Every 100 years, the fog would return to claim new lives. Jake realized the truth. The letter wasn't sent to him by accident. Eldermoor had called him here. The creatures outside began pounding on the church doors, their whispers turning into guttural growls. Jake bolted out the back, running through the twisted streets as the fog thickened. He found himself at the fountain in the square. The water was black, rippling as if something beneath the surface was moving. A voice emerged from the fog, soft but commanding. "You cannot leave. Eldermoor needs you." Jake screamed, refusing to give in. He ran toward his car, but it was no longer where he'd parked it. Instead, the road out of the village was replaced by more fog, endless and suffocating. As the creatures closed in, Jake stumbled into an old barn. Inside, he found a circle of runes carved into the floor, surrounded by candles. He realized it was a ritual site meant to banish the fog. But there was a catch. The ritual required a sacrifice. A voice whispered in his ear, "Choose yourself or someone else." Jake found another letter in the barn addressed to him. "We're sorry, Jake. Someone had to bring you here. Forgive us." He realized with horror that his family had sent him to Eldermoor to save themselves. The creatures entered the barn, their hooded faces now visible, twisted versions of the villagers who had made the deal long ago. Jake stood in the circle holding a knife. The ritual demanded blood, his blood. As the fog pressed closer, suffocating him, Jake made his choice. He slashed his palm and let his blood drip onto the runes. The creatures screamed as the fog began to recede, dragging them back into the void. But as the ritual ended, Jake collapsed, his vision fading. When Jake woke up, he was back in his car, parked on the side of the road. The sign to Eldermoor was gone, and the fog had lifted. He sighed with relief, thinking it was over, until he noticed the clock on his dashboard. It was counting down. And in his rearview mirror, the fog was creeping back. That's the story of the Forgotten Village. Would you have stayed to save yourself or sacrificed everything to stop the curse? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your bravest friends. And remember, some places are forgotten for a reason. Don't go looking for them. You might not make it back.